Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of August, and we're going to be talking about all the books that I'm going to be reading in the month of September. But my first hot pumpkin spice latte of the year, we are so ready to get into it. The series that literally consumed my life in the month of August, and that is the Cruel Prince trilogy. I think there's one more book that's technically within this world but not part of this specific series. It takes place like years before or after, something like that. But this series, if you don't know, it takes place in a fairy world, but they go back and forth between the fairy world and just the regular modern world. I like when fantasy books do that. It just really keeps me hooked. But this one is about this girl named Jude. She has to live with a guy who essentially murdered her parents. Then there is a little bit of a romance plot in the series, but it's definitely not a heavy romance plot. So if you're looking for a fantasy series who has a little bit of a romance plot and it's all really high stakes, it's a young adult series, so it is for younger audiences, so definitely check this out. Because I definitely recommend that you give this a chance because it was just so good. The angst that kind of leads up to waiting for that tiny bit of romance that this series gives it is amazing. I even prefer that better than a series that's just like packed with romance. This was just chef's kiss. Then I read Divine Rivals. I actually had a reading vlog where I talk about a lot of these books, and I do have to say that based on the hype that Divine Rivals had, I think it didn't live up to it for my taste in fantasy. I went into it thinking it was going to be a little bit more of a high stakes romance series, but it was just more of a cozy fantasy, and it's just really not my vibe when I read fantasy. So Divine Rivals is about this girl who has this almost like magic typewriter machine, and her brother went to war, and then she tries to write letters to her brother and puts them inside her closet, and then her rival, that's why I thought it was high stakes, because it is supposed to be an enemies to lovers, even though I didn't really get that enemies factor in it. Her rival is the one actually getting these letters, and that is pretty much the gist of it. I think they kind of get me, and because of that I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 stars. And I'm really hoping I love the second one a little bit more. I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars, to be fair. When I give a book 3 stars, it doesn't mean that I didn't like it. It just means that I didn't love it. I'm still gonna recommend it. It just wasn't my favorite book that I ever read. So it is kind of more of a cozy fantasy with a little bit of a fantasy world building and plenty of romance. My Rivals, you probably heard about this book. Just check it out if that's something that sounds like you'll be interested in. Read The Gracier. This is all fantasy month, by the way. I should give a disclaimer that all I read this month was fantasy, and my TBR for next month is also packed with fantasy. Then I read the dystopian book called The Gracier by Kim Leggett. This is pretty much if Handmaid's Tale was turned into a YA book. So it is about this girl who lives in this era where they have this thing called the Gracier, which means that once you turn 16 years old, I think it's 16 years old, you get sent to the forest with a bunch of other girls to get rid of your magic. And essentially if you are giving a veil, that means that someone's gonna be waiting for you back at home and you can marry this person, and if not, then you get sent to do other jobs and stuff like that. Some people really want a veil because that means they're gonna be set for life. This book was kind of all over the place for me, but I feel like it did come together at the end. So because of that, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I definitely recommend this. It was a really different read. It wasn't your typical dystopian book, and for that I really liked it. Probably my second favorite read of the month, and this is, I kind of messed up this book because I dropped them when I was trying to fix it. One Dark by Rachel Gillick. The next book doesn't come out, I think, until later in the year. So this is a high-stakes fantasy book. It's about this girl that lives in this world where the magic system has to do with cards, and it did really remind me of Once Upon a Broken Heart, and for that I really liked it. I feel like I haven't gotten that feeling from a book in a very long time. And there is a little bit of romance in this book, but it's not like the overpowering trope, I will say. Definitely romance is just kind of barely there, but the banter is so good. She has this monster that lives inside of her, and that is a spoiler. If you read the back of the book, you're gonna see that. And this monster talks to her, and it has to do with the whole cards magic system. I'd say that the magic system is my favorite part about this book, but the romance is actually really good. And the ending, massive plot twist. It leaves you just wanting to read the next book, which unfortunately is not out yet, so we're gonna have to wait. The books that I read in the month of August. Now let's talk about everything I want to read in the month of September. I do have to say I have a very ambitious TBR for the month of September, and it's probably not going to happen, but I do have been reading a lot faster, and I'm like really into the books that I'm reading right now, so I can do it. Last month I made the mistake of choosing a very specific TBR. I actually had you guys vote on my Instagram for the books I was going to be reading. I only read one of those books, so we did definitely fail that, so I'm not going to be doing one of those probably for a while. I do want you guys to blindly choose my TBR next month, so that's gonna be fun. Let's get into the books that I think I'm going to get to this month. With the first book in the Vampire Academy series, I want to say I'm about halfway in this book. I lost the marker. This is a very popular series. It has been around for I think over 10 years. This is by Michelle Mead. I think there's like shows about this series, there's movies about this series, so I don't think I have to go into explaining this. It's literally about Vampire Academy. It's a really long series, so we'll see how deep into this I get, but because I am about halfway in this book, I do really want to finish it this month. And it is fall vibes, so vampires, you know, I'm a sucker for vampire reads, so we're definitely going to get to this one. And I guess I had a really cool PR package with this book called Gone Tonight by Sarah Pekkanen. I'm not sure what else. She's the one who wrote The Wife Between Us. That's actually pretty cool. So I got sent this book, and then it came with a whole PR package. They literally sent me a hat, which is really cool, and they sent me a code to redeem the audiobook, which I'm definitely going to check out. I want to get into audiobooks. Guess who's narrating the book for this is Kate Mara, which is one of my favorite actresses. It'll be really cool. My most anticipated read of the year. I'm already reading this. This is The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I'm over 100 pages in, about 140 pages in. This is, if you don't know, this is part of the Inheritance Games series, which is one of my favorite series. This is more of a mystery situation. I'm really excited to get this. I'm not going to give you guys too much what the books are about because I literally don't know, but we do know what the series is about. So far I feel like I like it. It's a little slower than the rest of the series, I will say that. Very fantasy heavy reading month for me because there's a lot of fantasy series that I really want to get into, but we do have a little fluffy romance to serve as a palate cleanser. I'm already reading this. I'm about 40 pages in. This is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. If you've been around this channel for about a year now, you probably know that Ali Hazelwood wrote The Love Hypothesis, and that's one of my favorite romances of all time, so I'm definitely wanting to get to this. I've heard that this is like really science packed, and that could definitely be a turn up for me because I was literally a bio major and I switched majors because science was not for me, so we'll see if I do get into this. Oh, my voice already leaving me, so we're going to continue. So this is a maybe. I kind of want to get into a Throne of Glass series. This is by Sarah J. Maas. I think I read about 90 pages of this book, and I don't know why I didn't continue this. I still haven't finished the Avatar series, so that's kind of controversial. I know you're supposed to probably read that first, but one of my friends is really into the series right now, and I mean everyone is into the series, so maybe. And I also only have the first book in the old covers, so I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to buy the new covers, or I just want to buy the new covers after this book? We will see. I'm definitely in a book buying ban right now. But if you don't know, Throne of Glass, it's kind of in the same universe than the Avatar series, if I'm not mistaken. There's like 15 books in that universe. This is probably the longest series in that universe. We will see if I get to this is a big maybe for this month. Then we have this very short fantasy book that I've heard some good things about, and then also I've heard nothing about. This is called House of Salt and Sorrows. Let me just read you guys the description real quick, and then I'll explain what it is. This sounds a little confusing. Apparently a bunch of girls go missing. There's 12 sisters, they are cursed. This sounds kind of interesting. This is also a really cheap fantasy book, so I'm interested. It's also very short. It's only about 369 pages, which is perfect for fantasy. So I really want to get to this one. This is If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. I think I had this in my TBR for last month, but I feel like it didn't feel like an August read, so we're gonna try again. Dark Academia really fits with the fall vibe. This is a pretty much think about the trope of the secret history and then add a lot of Shakespeare to it. This is exactly what this book is about. I've heard that the writing in it is pretty pretentious and obnoxious, and I have a love-hate relationship with obnoxious writing, so we'll see if I get to this. I do really want to get to this in the fall though. I'm still to read a Dark Academia book, and I feel like that's something that I will definitely enjoy, so we're probably gonna give this a chance. Just TBRs ever. We still have about 5 books to go. My goal this month is to read about 10 to 15 books. It's probably not going to happen. I've read over 9 books, but I do have a lot of free time currently, so maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't. I'm really going to try because I do want to make my reading goal this year, so we'll see. Let's continue. So we had Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This one I'm kind of intrigued about. The font's pretty big. I feel like I could get through this fantasy book pretty quick. It's a YA fantasy series also. So this one is about death. So I think the love interest is death in this book. That could be either very good or very bad. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this series, and I think the next book already came out, so this is a perfect time to read this book. So I do really want to get to reading this. It just sounds like a fall vibe. Then we have Killer Instinct, which is the second book in the Natural series. I own, I want to say this is the second or third book. I think I own this next one to check, but these are the old covers. I used to love this series. Started this series about 2 years ago, and it became one of my favorite series of all time. And I took a pause from it because I'm a big mid reader and I needed to just kind of get into other stuff, but nonetheless this series is so good. This is the second book. We're getting more into the nitty-gritty of the series, so I'm excited for this one. I have A Secret History. I have read 150 pages of The Secret History. If I do end up reading this book this month, it's going to be for a video that I have pending on filming. And lastly, embarrassingly enough, I have started this book so many times. This is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Sarah Crowley recommended this book to me a long time ago. I've read about 50 pages of it, and I don't know. I don't know why I haven't gotten into it. Right up my alley now that I really like fantasy books, so maybe we're gonna pick it up again and test it out. Now that I'm actually a fantasy reader, I think this is a perfect time to pick this up. This book reeks of fall, okay? This is the perfect fall read to go with your pumpkin spice latte. I already know I'm going to love this book. I just have to pick it up. Honestly, this book got sent to me as an ARC a very long time ago. This is called Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is about witches and fairies. It's a very fantasy and fairy tale-like packed book. It's under 300 pages, which is insane. So hopefully we get to this. I think this one is about, yes, a fairy, and there's some witches and curses, and it just sounds perfect. We have finally come to the end of this video. That was a long one, okay? I actually had a good reading month, and then I decided to just mix the two videos together, so hopefully that works out. I hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos from me, and I'll see you guys on the next video. There might be a really fun video coming up, so make sure to subscribe so you can see it. Bye guys.